Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to Venusian Womb, a womb journey where dreams are seeded, identities are alchemized, and the journey inward begins.
This season, we are honoring a dream in gestation, a womb journey exploring the sacred phase between dreaming and birthing. It's about the phase where something meaningful is taking shape within you, even if you can't see it yet.
I'm Milena.
And I'm Megan.
Let's begin by taking a slow, deep breath together. Feel yourself arrive, land in your body.
This is a space to pause, to reflect, to connect, and to grow at your own pace.
We invite you to join us as we sit in conversation, share stories, and explore what it really means to be in the process of becoming. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Venusian Womb Podcast. We are so grateful to have you join us for this conversation. This is going to be going down the rabbit hole of the ego death moment and what this void, liminal space feels like, really what we can expect when we're in this space of becoming, when we're in some major transitions in our life, when maybe ways that we've seen ourselves, identities are collapsing, timelines are shifting, and there's just some really sudden changes that are shifting externally as well as internally, as within, so without. And so really just going into this conversation with an open mind, because I feel like the void ultimately, when we're in this ego death moment, this void, it really does feel like there's nothing to grab onto. It's a time of uncertainty, unclarity, very sudden changes, as I said, and it definitely calls for a whole lot of faith in the process and self-trust, especially when what's collapsing is our identity and the ways that we see ourselves, and how this internal process actually shifts everything around us and how we relate to the world around us when we are going through this process of metamorphosis. So I'm gonna pass it over to Megan if there's anything that I spoke to already that really sparked something in you.
I think we should just go straight into defining ego death. Like, what is an ego death? And when I feel into ego death, I feel panic. I feel confusion. As Milana said, like the unclarity, there's nothing you can attach or grab onto because nothing is. Nothing's been formed and nothing is. There's a literal collapsing of who you were before. And that's really scary for the ego because the ego loves to control things. That's where it gets its sense of safety from, is from knowing who it is, how it operates, what it does, all these characteristics. And when you go through an ego death, whoever you are no longer is. So there's a literal reconfiguration of yourself, which means you don't know who you are anymore in that moment of ego death. That person is new to you. It's foreign, it's unknown. And a lot of the times when we're going through ego deaths, it's initiating us into something we have asked God for, asked the universe for, and something we're wanting to move towards, which is super funny because a lot of people, they want to manifest and bring in and co-create all these great big things. But what you're calling in requires you to be a different version of yourself, because the capacity you're currently operating at, or the ways you're currently operating, does not hold this vision, this dream, this version of you that you're saying you want to be. So therefore, an ego death is necessary to kill off that version of you that is not what you're saying you want, or saying you want to be, or where you're wanting to move towards. And a lot of when you're doing shadow work too, and like uncovering these parts of your unconscious, those parts that you hid to be loved, when that starts bubbling up into your consciousness, into your awareness, there's going to be a lot of ego death moments, because all these things that you clung to keep you safe for decades and years, they don't serve you anymore. And you could see how they don't serve you anymore. And you can extend that love and compassion for how they have protected you and kept you safe to that point. But knowing, when you know very clearly where it is you want to go, who it is you want to be, And when you become aware of what doesn't fit and align with that vision, that version of you, you have no choice but to let it go, to let that version of you die so that you can come into this version that can hold. And like I said, it's unknown. There's a scariness in that too because we're recreating and reforming our identity. And that's also hard because then people can be asking you, "What do you do? Who are you?" And you're like, I know what I'm
How
not
are you?
anymore." How are you? I hate that question. That's a big question. So the ego death is the moment you realize I am not who I thought I was anymore, or I don't operate in the ways I thought I did. And it can feel like a crisis because then you don't know who you are. I'm doing in quotation marks because you don't. You have a space to be rediscovering yourself in a new way.
Mic drop moment. Oh my God, the level of codes that Megan just shared. And wow, I just want to take a breath, breathing in and breathing out, and really just letting this land and seeing what it's activated in you. I know it's activated many things for myself. And one of those things is be careful what you ask for. And it's the power of our words. It's the ways that we are literally manifesting and co-creating with this higher force, the unknown, right? In that void space. And it's like the power of our words, the power of our intention in this process is beyond what we can even imagine. And this is where one of those things is, be careful if you ask for patience, because there will be situations that are going to present in your life that are going to require you to embody that. And these are the testing moments. Like, these are the testing moments in this liminal stage when we are connecting to this new version of ourselves that's coming online, that's becoming embodied and becoming aware. Within that space, there's going to be many moments that you are being tested. You are being tested in your faith. You are being tested in that vision that you are holding for yourself, especially when you have this vision of where you're going. You have this feeling of who it is that you are becoming and the type of life that you want for yourself and that you are creating, actively creating in the world. And I think that when you have that vision and you have that perspective, there's going to be a lot of moments like these ego death moments where you feel like you're almost in this overcast shadow and there's no real direction or clarity of where this is all leading you to. And then this is also where the ego can fall into this victim headspace of, this is hard, this sucks, I don't want to be in this, this is so unfair. Perhaps there were some circumstances around this ego death moment or this timeline shift that, may feel unjust. And it's really being able to meet all of that, like meet all of these parts of the ego that's in essence, it's freaking out. It's like in this void space and it's trying to grab onto absolutely any story that it can hold on to that allows it to feel more grounded in some type of narrative around the situation that's happening. Because in this space, like Megan said, you don't know who you are. Like, who you've been is not who you are in this moment. And when you try to show up in those ways, there's almost this greater awareness of, it doesn't feel good anymore. Like, there is something within me where now doing this same action that I've always done causes this internal resistance and conflict. And so that's when we meet ourselves in those moments and we can really become aware of how embodied, like in an embodied way, this way of being doesn't serve us and isn't who we are. And it's out of alignment with our personal values or our virtues or the direction, that vision that we have for ourselves of, I can't do this action or continue to perpetuate this particular pattern or behavior because I know that it is out of alignment with that vision that I'm holding for myself and that I'm
Mhm.
actively co-creating. And this is the part of this process of the ego death that requires devotion, because especially in these hard moments, you are going to be tested to give up. The ego just wants to fawn
Mm.
and it just wants a relief from the discomfort, and there's resistance. And I feel like one of the things that's been the most supportive is being able to honor every single frickin' part of the process, every single part of this process of the ego death, and knowing that we are cyclical beings by nature, that the world around us operates in rhythm, and that our continuous rhythm is this cycling of expansion and contraction and reforming and reconfiguring and death and rebirth. So we are continuously embodying different iterations of ourself as we become more conscious of ourselves and how we're relating with the world, and also this inner voice as well, like this inner voice of our intuition. And yeah, I really feel that when we can allow ourselves to be in the ego death and like really be in it, rather than just like resisting it and staying stuck in these stories of why is this happening to me, which absolutely valid and will also be present. Like we are human and our ego is present. Even if we try to bypass or escape it, it's always going to be there. So let's meet it. Let's meet it and let's honor all these parts as well and honor the process that's uncomfortable and know that growth is something that is uncomfortable. It's called growing pains for a reason. And it's definitely one of those things where you build resilience to it as you continue to practice this and continue to show up in ways that may make you feel uncomfortable, but are actively leading you to where you want to go. And it's not just this like one decision of I'm going to now become this person as of right now in this moment.
Not
It's
possible.
really I
Not
wish.
gonna happen.
I wish I'd be playing different avatars like all the time.
This skin, that skin, this skin. Ooh, let's mix these two together.
Exactly. And it's really that's where I feel like there is this daily devotion that comes in, and I use this in the ways that I've coached and led myself, which is really it's about the 1% being 1% more in alignment or in embodiment with this iteration of yourself every single day and seeing how that compounds and eventually becomes second nature and then eventually becomes part of the foundation of how you operate in your life. And I feel like there's been so much that's been said there, but yeah.
Yeah, there's so many threads that I wanna, like, bounce off of, just to bounce off of exactly what you just said of, like, allowing and being okay that even once you figure it out, it's gonna, like, fall apart again sometime. Like, it's never fully concrete and, like, this is it. This is who I am." If we're holding or we think we're gonna reach this, like, ultimate place of s setting and grounding into this version of self, that's never gonna happen. I also wanna speak to what it feels like to be in this space of ego death, especially from a more I don't even wanna say shadow perspective, just from a very real human perspective. I'll speak from me and it might resonate with some. When I'm in the ego death space, I am depressed. That is the reality of it. I feel numb. I feel empty. I don't feel lively. I don't have any aliveness to what I'm doing. I feel shut down and I feel very, very irritable. Super irritable and angry, mostly because what's happening, and I have this awareness now, but even when I'm in it, I don't have the awareness. When I'm irritable and angry, that is pointing to all the ways that I am not honoring myself
Mhm.
because the version of me that I was isn't working for me anymore. And I'm trying so hard to make it keep working because I want to continue the stories. I want to continue the patterns. I don't want to grow. I will put up a fight before I have to grow every single time. That is hands down not even just a pattern, that's just how I operate as a human. I am not going to willingly choose to grow. I am going to resist and fight and cling to my old version of self. And eventually I'll be like, oh, God, I got to let her go. Okay, fine. But there's no flow to it. And I know that when I'm most irritable, when I'm most angry, and when I'm most depressed, when I don't feel the spark for life, it's because I'm dead. It's because the version of me that I was is gone. And within the nature of just working with energy and Venusian womb, we die every other fucking month. Like it's
It's actually
insane.
insane.
And I'm learning that this is part of my cycle and this is part of my being human. And I always come back to that spark, back to that liveliness, back to finding my home again, back to myself. But I get lost along the way. So I want to normalize feelings, the emotions, the shittiness that you experience as human in this cycle, but it doesn't mean you're victim to it. It's part of the process. And this leads me into the purpose of healing isn't to eradicate pain. And I'm really even struggling with the word healing now because I think a lot of people think, I heal this or I'm a healer and da 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 da. What does that really mean? I don't know. I haven't landed on a genuine definition of what it means to be in my healing journey. But what I do know is that healing is not to eradicate and get rid of pain. It's to learn to coexist with what's actually coming up. It's the end because you can't pretend it's not there. You're not going to go anywhere. You're going to stay stuck in the loops and the cycles of
Again and again.
repetition, patterns, and poor me. And again, victimhood is very real. Like people, shitty things happen to people. Shitty things have happened. I mean, Lena, shitty things have happened to me. Shitty things happen to everybody. But it's also how you're going to choose. And it's very valid to be angry and rageful at what happens. But then to stay in that's more corrosive and it breaks you down in ways that alchemizing it and allowing that emotion to move you into the next iteration of yourself is so much more empowering than staying in that victimhood. And let me tell you, I love staying in my victimhood. This isn't me saying that you
Oh, me
can love
too.
it. It's great. I love spiraling there. But there comes a point when I'm seeing that I'm spiraling there and I'm like, "Oh, can we really keep doing this? Could we really keep this up?" And I mean, that's up to you. If you want to stay in the spiraling
It's
victimhood, you
predictable.
can.
It feels
It's
safe.
so
It feels
predictable
comfortable. It feels known.
because you know the patterns. You know that when I do this, this is going to happen and then
This is how
and
I
like
feel. And then it perpetuates the same cycle of me giving myself too much self importance as the victim, right? Because the victim also loves to make it about me. It's like the me, me, me. That's how the ego preserves itself. That's how it stays operating and leading.
but yeah, thank you for adding that because that's so true. Like I just saw the little cycle that played itself out. So those were the big pieces that popped up as Milena was speaking. And I want to lead us into the main topic of what we're going to be talking about with the ego death and the masks we wear. All those beautiful
Mm,
masks
beautiful, beautiful
that
mess.
are present in the ways we operate in our day-to-day lives. And that when we're going through these ego deaths, how they crack, how they shatter. And then we're like scrambling, where's my mask? Where's my mask? Why does my mask not fit anymore? And that panic is so real because that mask, and I don't want us to shame the mask. We're not going to speak of this as a way of judging it or shaming it because we all do this. I have so many masks that I still wear. There's some that are breaking. There's illusions that I'm seeing. I'm like, oh, sometimes we don't even know we're wearing a mask, but we all wear masks for conditioning, for self protection. But these masks, they literally keep us away from our authenticity, from our true essence, from who we really, really are and how we really want to be in the world. And that's why there's so many of them. It's hard to see and know and feel who it is we really are, how it is we really want to show up. So I don't know if you have anything you want to feed off of that. My train of thought kind of just flatlined there.
Really. Thank you for leading us here because I feel like this has been exactly that big doorway in, especially because of the ways that these masks are so present. And sometimes, most times, we don't even realize that we're wearing them. We actually can't see ourselves behind the mask because we think that we are the mask.
That was good. Say that again.
We cannot see ourselves behind the mask because we think that we are the mask. And we form our identity with this projection of ourselves so much that we are exhausting so much energy, mental energy to continue to perpetuate this narrative of who we are and proving that. And then we're in these social spaces and we're trying to prove in these spaces that we are that. And we're speaking from this space of ego of this is who I am. And let me tell you who I am. And let me prove myself to you. And let me dress in a certain way that I feel like is going to make me seem like I am more of this character. And I mean, I'm all for the self expression. Like you're connecting to a part of yourself and there's certain elements that this part of self brings out in terms of, what you wear and the energy that you're walking into a room with and the ways that you're introducing yourselves and speaking about yourself as well as, your thoughts on whatever the world, the person you're talking to or the place that you're in. But it's it's when we're doing these things to adorn our meat suit, our human bodies, and also to project this mask and this character that when it that's that's part of this process of the ego death. Like there is part of that where you're becoming this iteration of perhaps a mask that you're wearing, but then at the same time, and this is where a lot of discernment is required. It's in the process when you're in this metamorphosis, but you're pretending to be something that you're not yet. This is where there is this inauthenticity in the ways that we're showing up in the world. And this is where there is this forcing in the ways that we are connecting with others and the ways that we're talking about ourselves. And it's been very interesting, I think, to learn and develop this way of being in connection that is so deeply authentic and vulnerable from doing these circles and in sisterhood in my connection with Megan and really being able to cultivate these safe spaces in connections that in those moments there aren't any mess. There aren't any mess at all. If anything, I'm actually removing the mess. I'm naming the mask. I'm realizing that there is a mask through the shares that these other women are bringing, where I'm able to actually see myself and feel resonance with their words and have a moment of, oh my God, like I actually relate to that. And I think I have been wearing that mask because there's truth in what this person is reflecting to me. And like these are the moments that we're able to recognize that we're wearing a mask. We're able to detach from the mask itself of this is not me, but this is a character that I'm trying to prove that I am. And I think the real question here of reflection when we realize that we wear all these masks and how we're acting in different spaces with different people, it's beautiful to be able to ask yourself, like, am I trying to be something that I'm not? And maybe it's something that I want to be. Maybe it's something that I'm aspiring to embody more. But am I that right now?
Mhm.
And in that question, am I forcing? Am I forcing? Am I going into these social spaces and meeting people and presenting myself, right?
Performing. Yeah.
Performing. Am I performing or am I just being present? And am I meeting the moment as it is and as I am in that moment without needing to change anything about my current state to prove anything about myself? And it's such a subtle difference. It's such a subtle difference. And it really does take discernment and, some radical honesty with self about how you're showing up and recognizing after the fact when you leave these spaces where, there may have been performance or you're presenting yourself, how are you feeling energetically? Because when you're trying to put so much energy into keeping this mask, and it's like, think of it, you're wearing this mask, and now you're doing the destiny dance with people, you're meeting the present moment, you're connecting with people, you're sharing yourself, you're you're holding on to this mask, like, the mask is, like, falling off, it's, like, coming off your face a little bit, like, a little messy, and you're putting so much effort trying to, like, be in this dance, as you're meeting the present moment, and you're trying to hold on to your freaking mask. Like, how much effort is that? Your arms are getting tired, like, the mask is just falling all over the place.
It's getting sweaty under
It's
there.
getting sweaty under there, you're feeling uncomfortable, like, right? So it's like, are we holding on to a mask? Are we maybe forcing and not flowing and accepting ourselves as we are and trying to be something that we're not yet? And it's like within that, can we drop our arms and just like let ourselves be and let the mask fall and really honor where you are in this process as you are becoming. And it doesn't mean that you're not getting to this embodying this iteration of yourself that this mask portrays, because the mask is ultimately just portraying a desire that you have for yourself. It's portraying an iteration of yourself that you could become in any moment. You could become that. In every moment you can choose to become that, because it really is a choosing in every single moment to continue to embody that version of yourself. And it's accessible, and it's always accessible. But it's one of those things where it's again, it's honoring the process. And within that, staying true to yourself and staying true to your process and staying true to, yeah, really just who you are, and not needing to pretend to be something that you're not.
I wanna speak to, like, a couple ways you can, like, somatically notice when a mask is on. I know that when I'm wearing a mask, my breath stops in my chest. It's not going down to my belly. I'm not taking deep belly breaths. I'm not taking breaths into my body. Another way to know, oof, I just had, like, a whole list in my head, and of course, it just pops out. Give me a second. It's the shame. It's interesting because I guess shame is what really started clouding into my body as I was talking about this. The shame of when that mask is falling, or when you're being witnessed in,
Hmm.
like, your true, "This is the real messy me here, no mask, no cover-ups." It's the shame that comes up and feels paralyzing, like you wanna hide, you wanna go under a blanket, you don't wanna be seen. So in those moments when you don't wanna be seen and you're reaching for your mask, um, I had a whole list. It's not coming back to me, but those are the 2 that are coming up right now, and I want to extend the invitation to notice in your bodies when you're wearing your masks, and what it feels like to take off your mask, and just start gently somatically cueing in your body, because shame is going to be a really big thing when we wear the mask because of shame, because we want to belong, because we want to be accepted and loved. And it's really beautiful to notice when you can drop your mask and you could see, "Oh, wait, I'm still in connection with these people, they're not running away. They still love me, they still wanna be here." And that's something really beautiful that I've noticed in circles that we host, and, like, just being in these kinds of spaces where you can take off your mask, is that you can share these parts of yourself and still be met with love, and still be met with belonging, and be, like, even met with, "Oh, me too," which helps get rid of so
Woo!
much of the freaking
What
shame,
a relief.
and brings you so much closer to yourself. That radical honesty Milena was talking about. I think there's many moments I've only been able to be radically honest with myself when I've seen it in another woman. Because if not, it was in my shadow. It was in my subconscious. I was genuinely not aware of it. But to hear somebody else own and share, even if their voice is shaking, even if it's not making logical sense and it's a little bit there's a resonance and an energetic frequency behind taking the mask off that is felt somatically in every single body that is present in that witnessing, because it's also reflecting parts in self. And yeah, there was one other thing that I wanted to say, is but yes, the masking. When you outgrow a mask, it's also going to be normal that you're going to keep trying to put it back on. You're going to keep seeing where it fits.
Mm.
And not only are you going to keep trying to put it on, you're going to see in what situations can you take it off? Where is it safe to take this mask off? Which is just another hint, like, or how I want to explain how our circles operate. We create spaces for you to start taking your mask off. That doesn't mean you have to take it off everywhere, all the time. That mask you're wearing is there to protect you for whatever reason. It doesn't really matter why, but it's there for protection, for safety, and for your sense of belonging. When you start taking it off, you're not just going to rip the mask off and be like, "I'm free." That's not going to feel freeing. That's not going to feel freeing at
Gonna
all.
feel scary.
It's gonna feel very scary, very isolating, and that's gonna, like, be throwing yourself into this space of, "I really don't know how to be at all." So our circles, and I mean, we're talking about a lot about the circles because this is really what we're doing in circle 2. It's a place for you to start titrating with it, to start seeing what it feels like at your own pace in a way that feels comfortable and safer to, okay, I'm being witnessed here. I'm being seen. Scary. I could put my mask back on. You could put the mask back on right when you leave the circle. You don't have to keep it off. But having a space where you can start taking off your mask in your own time, at your own pace, and being witnessed, there's something so alchemical and healing and beautiful that happens when you are able to do that. And that is a huge part of the ego death, a part of moving from one version of yourself to the next. It's knowing that it's safe to take off your mask.
I literally just visualize this, just this circle. This, I mean, we work with women, but just imagine the circles of humans just around a campfire, and each of them are just in one by one removing their masks and allowing their true selves to be seen and to be witnessed, and to all be doing that together, and to each be meeting the resistance within each other and just honoring it. Like,
Mhm.
just honoring, like, wow, what a beauty it is to actually meet you. Like, hi, nice to actually meet you. And
Yeah.
like the level of trust that that creates between people, to be able to really truly be so incredibly honest, like just honest with what is. And it's a scary process. It's a scary process, especially because, we're talking about the use of these masks for self-preservation. And to a degree, it's to preserve your sense of self. Like, we're trying to preserve the sense of who we think we are. And the truth is that every passing moment, who you are, that version of you, it also passes. Like, everything really is, there is this impermanent nature to all of life and even to ourselves. And so, yeah, it's really beautiful to be able to have these spaces where we can begin to titrate authenticity, and being able to also meet ourselves deeper in that, and to be given permission by others to become more of ourselves, and to be able to let go of a lot of that shame that carries and holds these masks in place, because we feel that we are not worthy as we are. And I think that in a world where, we are very superficially led, we're very instantaneous gratification, and there is this there is this performance in our world. And I think that to be human is actually an act of rebellion, and to be able to honor and express from all of these parts that we are told are too much, that we tell ourselves are too much, that we judge, that we blame, that we try to eradicate before we even sit down and meet these parts of us and say, hi, nice to meet you. And
Mm.
that's what we're doing in circles. It's like, to each other and to ourselves, like, hi, nice to meet you. Like, you are allowed to exist here. I'm not going to cast you away immediately and judge you and make you wrong. It's just, how can I just like be with this part of my humanness? And maybe part of that is, I fucking hate all of this. I hate every single part of the ways that things are in this space time and in this moment of my soul's evolution and of my life's path. And everything freaking sucks, and everything's falling to the ground. And I don't know who I am. And I feel super uncomfortable. And I don't know where this is all leading me to. Like, sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's really that. And it's like, how can we still, even that, how can we still honor that? How can we still honor all of the parts of ourselves that are in that? And that will also come out of that and like bloom and blossom from that as well. Like, again, all of these moments are just passing chapters that we're living. And I think that when we can recognize that life really is cyclical, then we can meet these threshold points, these points of initiation, these points of rediscovery of ourselves with a lot less resistance. And
Mhm.
also be able to step into spaces where we are connecting with others and being witnessed, but we are actually allowing ourselves to be without our mask. And we're allowing ourselves to be as we are, and really honoring honoring that and not needing to fix or change anything about your current state, but just allowing yourself to be. And knowing that that state, while it may seem messy to you, is also one of the most magnetic states, is that true authenticity of embodying who you are, where your energy speaks for you. You don't have to prove, you don't have to list all of these ego things to show that you are that character. You already are it because of how you speak, because of how you carry yourself. When you know you are true to who you are. And I find that there is a lot of liberation that comes from that. And even if that feeling of liberation, that feeling of relief from pretending, even if it's just for a moment, even if it's just to be witnessed by 3 people, 2 people that feel safe and can hold you, like that already is detaching. It's detaching the mask from the person. And I think of the movie The Mask, where he's like trying to rip this mask off and it's not coming off. And it's just like he's like throwing himself all over the place. But it's like when we're really able to start to like actually release the mask, then we realize that we never were that. And that was all actually just an illusion that we were holding on to about ourselves and about how what we need to be. When in reality, is it? Like, do you really need to be that? Or can you just be? Are you safe to just be? Or are are there these expectations of who we think we should be because of external pressures or because of, the timeline of this human experience and time and age and whatever, all of these other social stories, societal stories that come in. So yeah, it's really beautiful to be able to have these spaces. And I find that as Megan and I have been hosting these circles and really just embodying a lot more of this work, really this shadow work, this embodiment, this practice and devotion to, I guess, just the feminine cyclical nature of being. It's really just accepting this rhythm of becoming and how we are continuously, literally dying every single month, at least. And I think within that, we're able to be more in flow in this process and really be able to also catalyze it, of not needing to resist as much of the process and make it so much harder for ourselves. And if we are in that, having a space to land and be like, I'm moving through resistance and I just need to like discharge, or I need to be held or have perspective, like that's we're all walking each other home. We can all relate to each other's lived experience in some flavor and some texture in some way.
Mhm. I definitely wanna loop back to that cyclical nature that we've been coming so acquainted with, um, and how yeah, we cycle through that contraction and expansion, and it really is that just cycle of contract, expand. And I love how you said that as we're meeting these parts of ourselves with less resistance, as we become more familiar and comfortable in the uncomfortable, there's also a curiosity that emerges. And I think the curiosity is a really important part of this because it brings us back to our innocence, back to inner child energy, and back to being able to be playful in these spaces of discomfort and in these spaces of contraction so that we prepare for expansion. So, curiosity has been a huge piece of emerging through allowing what's happening in these ego deaths to get curious of, okay, well, I don't know who I am, but who could that be? What could that look like? What new masks am I going to start putting on? And not necessarily that you have to put new masks on, but I think inevitably we're always going to be wearing some forms of some kind of masks. Um, which then leads me into one mask that I'm very well acquainted with, the good girl mask, the people pleasing mask, and how I do think in some cases, like, masks are important to be worn, and I don't think this is a matter of you need to take your mask off and never have it on ever, 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 because that I don't think is actually the point of it, but to know where you feel safe to take your mask off. Yeah. There's a whole tangent I wanna go on, but that's not even gonna really be relevant for this episode, so, yeah, that's all I'm gonna say on that.
We'll pin it. We'll pin it and then we'll save it and let it gestate. And I did want to bring to this conversation Jim Carrey because I feel like he is definitely a role model in terms of understanding a bit more about these characters that we play. And I think his story is so captivating of just his evolution as an actor and playing all of these different roles and the ways that he would actually embody these characters, where he would be on set and he would be playing, like literally embodying and being that character on set, being called a different name than his actual name. He's being called his character, and he's just like everyone is speaking to him as if he is this character. And he's in that time that he's filming, it's really just dropping into this completely new way of being, new way of operating, new way of speaking, new way of acting. And also like new way of relating with like the world around you and to yourself. And he has these really beautiful talks where he speaks about the ego and he speaks about the ego death, especially because by the nature of his art and just the ways that he's learned to master it through this embodiment of his character, he's also had many ego death moments of realizing, well, if I'm able to play this character so well and literally become this person for the sake of my art and my craft, then who am I when I'm not playing this character? Like, where is the line between the character that I'm playing and who I actually am?
Mhm.
And I feel like he walked that fine line between playing a character and then playing himself and realizing that it's actually all the same in the sense that you become who you show up as and how you speak as and how you act as and your daily it's like it's a culmination of all of your daily choices that end up creating the who you are, like this character that you're playing. And he really speaks to the ego death moment and depression being this deep rest from the character that you're playing. That's why you go through this period of immense contraction, because you're resting from this person that you've been performing that is not actually who you are. And in that
And then yeah.
moment, yeah, no, if you want to speak
No,
to
I
this.
just because then I'm also grappling with this idea of, yes, we wanna support I believe in bringing people back to their authenticity, but to a certain degree, there will always be a level of performative. Like, there's no way to eradicate the performance that comes through, especially with the story you just illustrated, where he's, like, playing between this line of, "Who am I really?" and then this character he plays, but these characters he plays is part of it's part of who he is. It's part of how he shows up in the world, it's the part of his how he explores embodiment. So, I think also the beauty, the gift that we're given is that we get to play these characters. We get to try them on. We get to see which ones feel most aligned with who we are in our core and the values we uphold for ourselves. And it's not that these characters aren't us, but what an honor, what a privilege to get to play different characters, to get to be in this world of theater, to just try things on, and that we could kill it off if we don't like it.
Or life will kill it off if it doesn't serve you,
That too, that too. And we
right?
could
Like,
cling. Yeah, 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 yeah,
it's
you're right.
bound to happen either way. And again, it brings us back to the cyclical nature. Like, as we grow and evolve, we are continuously cycling through these processes. It's inevitable, and it's expressed in the seasons. It's expressed in just so many of the cycles of life and of creation. And so it's kind of one of those things that really when we can really harness the fact, the acceptance, the truth that this is just this is part of the human experience, this is part of the experience of creation, we are able to actually play with it. We're able to meet this process with a bit more curiosity. We're able to play these characters, right? Like we're practicing embodying these different iterations of ourselves. And this is also what's key, is making sure that if we are choosing to practice playing an iteration of ourselves, right? Like we're allowed to get playful and curious and show up as different parts of ourselves in each day. But now making sure that we are actually embodying it rather than just saying that we are that. We are actually being it, and we are tested. We are showing up as this iteration of ourselves. That is a huge one, because then otherwise we're just playing a character and telling a story to people, but then it's not actually the truth of what we are living. And then that's bypassing. And I feel like that is worth noting because the ego loves to do that. It loves to be validated for something that it's not, and then not actually
Mhm.
have to go through the testing
Embodiment?
moments and the effort and devotion to actually be that iteration of yourself. And I feel like this is a part of this process where I notice it all the time. I've noticed it in myself all the time. And it's just, I realize that I'm actually performing and I'm performing for myself too, which is kind of crazy that I'm like, wow, I'm even trying to keep this mask up for myself and I'm bypassing myself.
Silly girls.
Silly, silly until we see it. And it's like, oof, okay. Okay. So how can I come more into alignment with who I say I am and who I want to be? And again, it comes down to every single day and in those testing moments when I want to react, when I want to say something that is out of character from who I am becoming, and it may feel justified and it may feel valid to do the thing, to do the reaction, but again, those are the moments. Those are the moments where you are tested in your integrity of who you are and who you're choosing to be. And so I find that this is a big part of that. The embodiment is a big part of that. And also recognizing that you may embody certain iterations of yourself and be like, ooh, this activated this part of me. And like this part of me now feels much more online. But everything else of this character that I've been playing, like it doesn't actually really resonate. And it's just like as you're going through these, as you're evolving, really, it's keeping what resonates and leaving what doesn't. Let it go. Let it go and let that space be filled by something that is much more aligned with who you truly are. And this is the whole process of life, really. And this human experience is to know thyself, is to be
Mhm.
able to continuously remember who it is that you are here to be and what truly feels in resonance with your inner self and your heart. And that's that's the whole point of this.
I definitely wanna offer, like, an anchor practice, mostly because this is what I did 2 nights ago, and as I've been navigating all of this, and we've been talking a lot about these masks and all like, everything we've been talking about, but we haven't really given anything tangible to anchor you into, and I'm gonna say this from a space of if you've never asked yourself this question before, you're not gonna have an answer. You might literally have question marks, but I still want you to ask yourself it because the more you come back to it, the more clear it's gonna become, and it will become your anchor in all of this. Why are you here? Why are you here? What is your why? And if this is your first time I'm telling you, so many people are like, I have no idea how to answer that. That's okay. Answer it to the best of your capacity, to the best of your capabilities, because I notice I'm very good at finding my why for my business, for my career, for everything else I'm doing. But I had never really asked myself what my why is, and whatever it's 11:44 as I'm saying this. Cool. Um, whenever I what w in the ways I've asked myself it now, it's showed up in its own version. It might be different in a year from now. I don't think so because I do feel like I have asked this question to myself in ways I haven't before, but to be really crystal clear on what your why is and what are your pillars? What is like like your foundation of like that holds up your why? What are your values?
Values.
Because if you don't know what your values are, you don't have something to refer to. There's no like compass guiding you anywhere. And I know for me and Milena, especially the more we've been learning or integrating the role God plays in our life and the roles we play. There's been new values that have become more solidified in how we choose to operate Venusian womb, how we choose to operate in our own lives, and how that's trickled into our own personal values. But I do believe it's so important for each and every one of us so that we can decode these masks, know which masks fit, which masks don't fit, know what's authentic to us, is to really be clear on what your why is and what are the values, the pillars that uphold that why. Because that is your North Star. That is what's going to guide you and how you're going to know, oh, am I falling off? Am I so that inauthentic with myself? Is that mask really like opposite of what I'm saying? Like, am I so out of integrity with myself that I don't even know who, where, what is going on anymore? So I'm gonna send you home, you are home, wherever you're listening to this, send you with a practice to take some time by yourself, do it all by yourself, don't do it with anyone else, and write out your why. Brainstorm it. However it comes out, you can draw it, you can write it in a journal, you can write it on a piece of paper, put it in your notes if you want. Actually, no, don't put it in your notes. Don't put it on a computer. I want you to actually physically write it with your hand, your pen, hear the sound of it coming out, and that is your why, and that is your anchor in all of this.
And I want to speak to the fact that without these values, without these pillars, without our why, we lose ourselves. We lose the core of who we are and what we value, especially when we're playing all these masks, especially when we're playing all these characters. We can get lost in the sauce of the stories that we are perpetuating or projecting and the characters that we're playing, that we lose sense with that deeper intention beyond how am I being perceived. It's how am I showing up? And is it in alignment with who I am? And it's definitely one of those things that having these values, the values of honesty, the values of compassion, of respect, of, compassion, like whatever these values look like to you, or virtues. I mean, I know them as virtues. It's these are what are going to anchor you in these moments where you're being tested, where things may not be going your way, where you don't have the clarity of understanding why life is happening in the ways that it's unfolding and how this is happening for you. These are the moments that you are tested, especially. And these are the moments that these are going to anchor you, because that ego of yours, it's going to run rampage. And it's just like part of this process of maturing, also like maturing into ourselves and being able to develop more awareness around the ego and around the fear, and understanding, having more discernment to understand truly what's going on when we're in these experiences of intense emotion and there's lack of clarity. And what is clear in those moments is who you are and how you're showing up. And that's something that will anchor you, and it will allow you to be able to stay within this process of discomfort while also honoring yourself and who you are, and not losing yourself in that process. And it doesn't mean that this ego death process isn't going to feel uncomfortable. Answering the why might feel super confronting because maybe you haven't actually explored why are you here. And it's like, why are you here for yourself? Like, it doesn't have to be this like super dharmic mission of I am here to do this for humanity. It can literally just be like, I'm here to be authentic and to be human and to be able to spread and share as much love as I possibly can in all of its forms, through my art, through my family, through my connections, like whatever that why is. It's really just, what's your why for being human? Why are you here? What do you value? And again, that's something that why will express in many different ways. It's not just this one specific thing, but it's the energy. It's what's carrying you forward, and it kind of gives purpose to this whole process. Is why are we doing this for? And it's important to be able to have that to anchor us in these moments, because there will be moments that despite you having your why and despite you knowing your virtues and despite you practicing this embodiment and shadow work and having the awareness of many parts of self, like there is literally, Megan and I, we experience this all the time. Thank God we have each other to really hold it down, because there's moments where like both of us just want to burn the world and just everything in it and ourselves, and just like relief, like there's ending and closure. And that's super dramatic. Like, let's just name it as it is. We both know this, but it's super
I don't
pleasant.
think so. I think it's realistic.
Okay. And then there's that. So, it's just it's just recognizing that that's just part of the process, and being able to have these values to really anchor you as you're kind of moving through that is very supportive, and making sure also that as we're going through these moments that we're not hurting others. that we're not spilling our mess onto freaking everywhere just because we're having a hard time. And this is another thing that it comes with integrity, right? It comes with like, how am I choosing respect and honesty and communication? Like, how am I choosing these virtues in these moments to also make sure that I'm showing up with integrity, and also I can be going through a process and not need to splurge it onto everyone. And it's it's okay. Like, it's okay. And when we can allow ourselves to be real and vulnerable with the people in our lives, and we can just say, hey, like, I'm going through this process and I don't actually have capacity to show up for you. Like, that is beautiful. And that's being able to just be honest is something that for the most part, it'll usually, hopefully, be met with respect and just be met with, if there's any way I can support you, then absolutely. And if not, then I understand. And that's beautiful. It's beautiful to also honor your process and like honor when you are in these moments and giving yourself grace to not feel like you have to show up for all of these other people or connections or commitments when you're going through a process where you're really trying to reconfigure who you are in this new chapter and in this new timeline. And yeah, having this practice is something that's super helpful. And I feel like I'm just trying to feel into, ooh, actually something that's been very helpful for me recently as well is creating a playlist around the energetic archetype, I like to say, that I'm stepping into. So, recently I've been in this chapter of, or stepping into this chapter of expansion, of embodiment, of like really stepping into my power. And I find that music is one of those beautiful gateways in to be able to really like start feeling into this energy and really start to embody it more. So embodying more of this power through music, and then in the ways that you're dancing and the ways that you're moving, like really just honoring and like having some power poses and like getting into that, like almost like dramatically expressing. And there's yeah, there's a performing in it and becoming to yourself. You're witnessing yourself, and that kind of helps. It helps anchor this new energy, these new ways of being. And the more I practice that, the more that I feel confident doing that out in public maybe and being witnessed and like, yeah, like let me own my
Mhm.
space. And I find that music is a beautiful practice to also be able to anchor this energy of who we're becoming and practicing becoming more familiar with it in the body.
In you saying that, I just had like a ding, ding, ding. It's almost like you have to perform it before you become it. Because if you don't know it, if you've never done it before, if you've never tried it on before, it's inevitable. And I think this is what I was feeling in before when I was trying to speak on it.
Fake it
You
till you make
have to
it.
perform it. And I don't even know if it's fake it till you make it, because that feels like
It's the fake
very
it.
inauthentic. It feels
Mhm.
fake, but
Mhm.
you do have to trying it is performing it. Like, there's, like, this especially if, like, your play like, I make playlists all the time, and I put on these different characters, and I call this energy in, and I play with it, and I'm like, "Ooh, that was weird the way you just did that. No, we wouldn't wanna do it that way, but maybe that was actually the most authentic way." So then I perform it because I wanna make it sound or feel or look better. But in this process of, yeah, there's going to be some performative aspect of it, so don't shame or feel like you're a failure for figuring it out or taking off a mask or putting on a mask. There's gonna be some performance that's gonna come through, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean this is such a beautiful exploration. I feel like just in this conversation, and I'm curious to also anchor in some reflection of maybe what parts of you have come into your awareness, or have kind of just been like, ooh, me, and really seeing what parts of you you're exploring as you're just continuing to evolve and to become and to know thyself, to know yourself. And yeah, if you also are feeling like you're in this period of integration and you're kind of struggling to find some grounding, like to find some grounding in the liminal space, in the space of transition, in learning how to really just ground this new version of yourselves, then Megan and I, we also, that's why we do what we do. Like the entire purpose of Venusian Womb is for, again, growing and nurturing this connection and co-creation. Like, we're really nurturing this culture of how we can be human together, and how through just honoring our humanity, we are actually bringing people together in a way that is much more authentic to what is and who we are, and honoring our process in it, and knowing that you are not alone, because what the ego wants you to think in these moments is that you are alone, is that you are the victim of it, is that this is something that's happening to you. And being able to have people that can hold you in that, it really helps dismantle a lot of those stories and a lot of those narratives. And also, what a relief. Like, what a relief that I can also just kind of let myself go a little bit and be messy and be held by my people, and know that even if you don't have people, that there are people that are here willing to hold you, and
And
that
want to. They
and want
want
to.
to.
Like, this is literally
We
our
want to.
it's our life's work. Like, it's just something that it just it comes very natural, and we've held each other through so many ego death moments. And I've seen Megan in the messy, Megan's seen me in the messy. And like, when I say messy, I say like mask is absolutely fragmented and shattered into a million frickin' pieces, and I have absolutely no frickin' idea who I am without these things that have been lost, or these amidst all of these changes. And whoa, that's a super vulnerable state to be witnessed in. But
Mhm.
thank God that I allowed myself to be witnessed in that state, because I was able to have support through such a human process. And it's something that every single person listening to this podcast and beyond is going to experience at some point in their life.
On that note, I feel we have reached a completion for this episode. I want to thank everyone who is tuned in, whether it's today on Friday, a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, and listen to this episode on ego death. We would love to invite you to check out our website, where we have some blog posts. We have the transcripts for the episodes, our upcoming womb circles. We just had one womb circle recently. We'll have another one next month, which we really hope some of you will be wanting to join, and to send us any feedback, any comments, anything, any masks that you've been wearing or that you're working at removing. We always love to hear from you. And well, we'll see you next week.
You know what? I'm just gonna say a little PS. If there are any masks that you feel are seeming like you need to wear to come to a women's circle, then this is an invitation to speak to that, and to also maybe sit with that and understand, what are these masks that are coming through? Because the reality is that the women's circles, it's a space for no masks. You don't have to come with any masks. You don't have to wear anything. You can just come as you are. And so I just wanted to drop that in there, because I'm noticing that there are a lot of masks that people think they have to wear to be ready to come into circle. And that's an illusion. That's an illusion. So let's dismantle that together. So on that note, thank you for joining us inside the Venusian womb. If this episode spoke to something within you, we'd be so grateful if you left us a review or rating. It truly helps our podcast grow and reach more beautiful souls who are on this journey of becoming.
You can also share this episode with someone who may resonate with this message. Sometimes the right words arrive exactly when needed the most. Remember, growth takes time, and everything you're becoming is unfolding exactly as it's meant to.
May this Venusian code activate the Venusian energy within you. Until next time, take a breath, trust the timing, and keep tending to the dream within.
With love, Milena and Megan.